you mentioned you wear many hats, and one of the hats is as someone who's involved in the African American Credit Union Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about the organization and kind of how it came to be and sort of what you've done with it?
I will say Sheila Montgomery first. Sheila Montgomery is the visionary for the African American Credit Union Coalition. The African American Credit Union Coalition was born out of the Governmental Affairs Conference in Washington. Each year that was the one place that a lot of African American credit union volunteers would travel to. It was part of the lobbying effort of the credit union movement, and we were there. But it was funny because most of the African Americans that traveled with majority white boards. And we joke now because we would almost be afraid to talk to each other because it was really funny. We would wave at each other and we wouldn't want anybody to see us really talking because people then thought that we were trying to... It was so much unrest. You know, when African Americans would get together, the next thing you know, you're having a sit-in or a walk or somebody's getting bombed or something. So it was, so we would kind of pretend that we didn't know each other. You know, we just like kind of sneak and wave at each other. So Sheila Montgomery had the courage to begin to invite us to all come to dinner. And it was just kind of informal. She had this vision of an organization. We had the vision of eating at Phillips down on the Potomac, down on the riverfront in D.C. So it started out probably with 5 or 6 of us getting together, and over maybe a period of 3 or 4 years, it might have grown to maybe 20 or 25 over time, and we began to seriously talk about why not organize, why not. There's so much that we could bring to the movement because our voice is not heard. There's so many people here at the Governmental Affairs Conference. It's one of the largest conferences in credit union land. But African American voices are not being heard. There has to be some value. And we discussed it, and we determined that we did not want to be perceived as a renegade group or a splinter group. We wanted to be perceived as a group that had very positive goals and wanted to enhance the best of what credit unions had to offer. And that was to bring our thoughts and our thoughts to impact the movement in an organized fashion. We would have a speakers bureau. We would have a way to really network outwardly, proudly, connect and network and gain the strength of that connection. Consequently, in 1997, we had our first formal organization meeting at Andrews Air Force Base Federal Credit Union. At the time, Michael Hale was the CEO there, and we elected a board of directors, we adopted bylaws, and we talked about what the name should be, and we decided on African American Credit Union Coalition. We chose a logo, which is the hand with the veins going up through the hand, and it's reaching up, and the concept being that we wanted to be an organization that would help other African Americans be able to reach up as far as careers were concerned and in the credit union movement. And it took off, and we had our first conference in St. Louis. It wasn't a true conference, it was a meeting. It was hosted by Education Employees Credit Union, now Vantage Credit Union. Hubert Hoosman was the CEO there at the time, and the next year we met in New Orleans, and I was sort of the host there because I'm in Louisiana, not New Orleans, but and we had, it proved to be a really great meeting, and the next year we decided, well, let's try to move from a meeting to a seminar. And we did that. We had education classes and sessions going on, and we had, it was in Dallas that year. We probably had about 125 people to attend. We had Eddie Bernice Johnson, who was the U.S. Congressman out of Texas, as one of our key speakers. And we really thought we were making some real headway, and we were. The following year, we had our conference in California, in Hollywood, and we had Maxine Waters that year. And that was the year that we started our Pete Creel Lifetime Achievement Award, where we began to look out among credit unions. And one of the things that we saw was that with awards that were given out in the movement, rarely did you ever see an African American that was honored. But we knew so many people that had given their lives to the credit union movement. And one of the things that I say, and I know it to be the truth, is that African Americans invested much of their future wealth in credit unions. And not just African Americans, all people did. But it really impacted African Americans in a different way, in the sense that African Americans were coming from a position of lack, but yet they gave out of that lack and donated the one thing that they could have used to improve their wealth position, which was their time. They volunteered in credit unions. And so I like to tell the young people today that I'm so passionate about the history, and I'm so passionate about the movement, because my ancestors invested their future value of money in credit unions. And unfortunately, it's not always valued by the powers that be. But those were some powerful investments. Somebody invested here. But there were African Americans all over this country that chose to, rather than to get a part-time job and save those dollars and let that money grow into a poverty-destroying opportunity for their family, they chose to invest their time and their mental expertise in credit unions. And I think it was an investment that will pay off for communities and for our country for generations to come.